Do you have a favorite go-go band?
Rare essence.
Rare Essence.
Yeah.
And for our
So,
viewers who may not be familiar with the genre, how would you describe go-go music?
so go-go is a highly localized, born uh, art form in Washington, D.C. It's really characterized by its heavy percussions, heavy drums, heavy conga, and the instrumentation has a lot of fire and it's very polyrhythmic. It's very call and response. So I think in a lot of ways it's one of those collective memory things in the African American community.
Do you have a favorite landmark in DC?
Sadly, the one that I remember is now gone, which is Pyramid Books. Pyramid Bookstore. There was a location in Southeast in Anacostia, and actually that's where I met my husband.
I have my whole life have found that when I see DC portrayed in books, TV, film, it's often a city that I also don't recognize.
DC has a because it is the capital, and because there's a lot of tremendous history attached to it. It's the center of a lot of things for this country and the world. So it has a very monolithic sort of image, I think, because of that. And the media has, spurned that on in its depiction. The B-roll on an average movie, even, you have, the government buildings, but a lot of times you never get to see the regular neighborhoods or everyday people.
What are a couple of books that you feel capture the true city?
Lost in the City by Edward P. Jones is definitely one of my favorites and one that comes to mind. Simply because the stories themselves are such a reflection of just typical experiences, typical people that you would come across. We need more stories that give a sense of the city, give a sense of the flavor. I come across a lot of people who, when they visit, we may have known each other for many, many years, but they hadn't really spent that much time in Washington. But then when they come and visit and hang out, they're like, oh, there's so much going on. And there was always a lot going on. It's just that was never out in front.
What led you to set your new novel in the Anacostia neighborhood of DC?
Well, Anacostia has a lot of images, good and bad, but my image of Anacostia mostly comes from my childhood, spending a lot of time at my auntie's house or my grandmother's house or my great aunt's house. And, when you're a little kid, you see the world through, sort of magical eyes. At least I did. And so you see a lot of terrible things, but you see a lot of wonderful things too. And so that, Anacostia really has always been a place of contradictions, of the wondrous beauty of things juxtaposed right next to something that's absolutely terrible or horrifying. The joke, my husband and I make a joke, it's an Anacostian contradiction.
Your novel has a lot of dreamy, surreal elements to it. Does any of does the do those surreal elements, does any of that date back to your own memories, your own childhood?
Yeah, quite a bit. Again, that the what the moon looked like over the above the hills. This is very hilly areas. Um, the church, of course, it was Our Lady of Perpetual Help at the church at the top of the hill there. So I have a lot of memories of when we had Fourth of July get-togethers or funerals or um, family holiday get-togethers. Looking at that panoramic view of the city. And I think as I've grown and aged, the city, I feel like I've aged and grown with the city. It's changed a lot. I've changed a lot. So a lot of my writing is a reflection of time moving through different eras and experiences.
What vice have you most heavily indulged during the pandemic?
uh, Desserts.